Heroes come in many forms, but most people don't picture a canine when they imagine a war hero. However, one dog, by the name of Rags, fought valiantly in World War I and helped the Allies reach victory over the Central Powers. Today, we're telling the story of the dog who fought in World War I. Rags was originally just a stray pup picked up by a couple of American soldiers in July of 1918. James Donovan and George Hickman, part of the 1st Infantry Division, had been celebrating Bastille Day in a bar in the famous Montmartre section of Paris when they stumbled on what they thought was a bundle of rags. The accidental bump of one of their boots aroused the bundle, and it barked, revealing that the men had come upon a dog, not Rags. The men must have stooped to quiet him, and the dog, now fully awake, had the good sense to follow them back to base. Rags cheerfully became the companion of Jimmy Donovan, though everyone in the unit enjoyed him and slipped him scraps of whatever they were eating. Upon returning to his unit, Donovan was called before his commanding officer and was prepared for a stiff reprimand. Instead, the young captain informed him that they were both moving up to division headquarters to establish a special communications service between infantry and artillery units of the 1st Division. The captain also gave Donovan permission to keep Rags. The dog's shaggy coat, moist black nose, and wagging tail had won over the officer. His friendly manner would continue to win over officers of even higher ranks throughout Rags' military career. It didn't take long before both Donovan and Rags underwent their introduction to the trench warfare of the Western Front. Both of them became involved in the Franco-American Second Battle of the Marne that was waged from July 18th to August 6th of 1918. During this time, they were active in the sector from Bien-Tardenois to Soissons. Donovan's job was to string communications wire between the advancing infantry units of the 26th Infantry Regiment and the supporting 7th Field Artillery Brigade. He was responsible for stringing and repairing the wire as it was damaged by shell fire. The officers saw that Rags was great for morale, but it soon became obvious that Rags could function as an early warning system. When Rags heard the sound of an incoming mortar attack, he would immediately flatten himself on the ground and stay down. Donovan began training Rags to carry written notes from Donovan back to the 7th Field Artillery. Rags, usually contemptuous of learning tricks that the soldiers tried to teach him, seemed to grasp the importance of his job. He soon learned to take the messages toward the sound of the American guns, and had little trouble in finding Donovan with return messages. In late July of 1918, during a counterattack driving toward the Paris-Soissons road, Rags was to deliver the first of the messages that would make him famous throughout the 1st Division. Rags and Donovan found themselves with a group of advancing infantry that had been cut off and surrounded. The only officer surviving was a young lieutenant. From the wording of his message, it is probable that he was an artillery forward observer. Wire communications had been cut off by the Germans. The following message was written out and attached to Rags' collar. "I have 42 men, mixed, healthy, and wounded. We have advanced to the road but can go no further. Most of the men are from the 26th Infantry. I am the only officer. Machine guns at our rear, front, right, and left. Send infantry officer to take command. I need machine gun ammunition." Rags was able to dig his way through the barbed wire, avoid the Germans, and make his way through the shell holes back to the 7th Field Artillery. The message was passed on to headquarters. A supporting artillery barrage was laid down, and reinforcements were sent out that rescued the cut-off group and helped secure the objective. The news of Rags' achievement was quick to pass through the fighting men of the 1st Division. In the prolonged fighting in the Meuse-Argonne, the final American campaign of World War I, Donovan and Rags were caught in a mustard gas attack. Both were seriously injured and sent to a field hospital. Rags suffered leg injuries and was blinded in one eye and lost hearing in one ear. He had been wearing a canine gas mask, but it was knocked off in the blast. He eventually recovered well enough to get around. Jimmy Donovan was much more seriously wounded. He was to be sent back to Fort Sheridan in Chicago for added medical care. Rags had been a frequent presence on Donovan's bed in the field hospital, so some of the other patients made certain that Rags was smuggled onto the ship that was taking Donovan back to the U.S. After Donovan's death, Rags was adopted by Major Raymond Hardenberg and his family. Rags followed them wherever the Hardenbergs' military career took them. Over the years, the Major was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and settled in the Washington, D.C. area. When Rags became old and infirm and needed more care than the Hardenberg family could give, he was sent to Aspen Hill Kennels to live with Richard and Bertha Burney. He died there and was buried in the pet cemetery. Eventually, a marker was placed on Rags' grave, which even to this day is decorated on a regular basis with flowers and an American flag. On March 22, 1936, a lengthy obituary ran in the New York Times. Rags, dog veteran of war, is dead at 20. Terrier that lost eye in service is honored. The article goes on for 16 paragraphs recounting the heroic escapades and brushes with death this war dog faced during his stint of service. The dog was adopted by the men of the 1st, played with them, and fought in the only way he could beside them. He underwent heavy fire in the Meuse-Argonne campaign. He sped messages through shell-studded, gas-hung sectors. He became a personality in the division, a symbol of courage and of good luck. Apocryphal stories sprang up about him, but there was generally a generous basis of fact for the yarns. It was not the first time the little Scottish-Irish Terrier called Rags would get mentioned in the prominent paper, nor would it be his last. Subsequent articles about Rags's final resting place were published in the days following his death. 3 books, including one for children, have been written about Rags' many adventures both at war and afterward. He has become something of a folk hero, in addition to one of the only canine veterans in history. In this case, he truly earned the title man's best friend. According to the author of the most recent book, as a stray, Rags' vital statistics are a mystery and may forever remain so. The life he was enduring on the streets of Paris at a time when war was creating famine across Europe might have been a short one. Rags was lucky. Humans intervened, scooping him up out of harm's way, allowing him to be reborn as the beloved companion animal he was meant to be. All animals should be loved, but especially the abused and abandoned of this world.